Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is KoKoRo, and I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 commentary. This is going to be a Terran versus Terran on the map Shattered Temple. Let's go ahead and introduce the two players here. Spawning in the top location as our yellow Terran will be KoKoRo, who is of some clan that I don't know their name. I wish he would tell me that name. I should probably ask him. But anyways, he'll be spawning in the top position. And the 9... in the 3 o'clock location will be his opponent's LuckySTArXPn. Just call him Lucky. So KoKoRo versus Lucky, spawning as a red Terran. And off the bat, guys, I'm going to go ahead and say that I don't know squat about TVT, but I'm just going to be watching what these two guys do and seeing how they differ their builds here. And maybe try to glean some insight. But when I play on ladder, you know, in the European account and I play random, every time I get TVT, I just dread it because I don't know what I'm doing. So hopefully we'll be learning something here. But not at the very least, we'll be highly entertained, which is what the point of these videos are, right? So anyways, while things are kind of null and void and nothing's going on, I'll make a couple of announcements. First announcement is that I will be laddering a bit because I just need to get into Diamond already. And that is the plan, and I want to go ahead and get a lot of practice in for this tournament that I'm going to be participating in. It's the Barcraft tournament. And I already did pretty well in the qualifiers. I qualified for the finals round, and I was able to secure a spot there. I'll be playing up against a Protoss, I believe his name is Crux, and then if I win that series, then I actually get to go up against RGN Spades. And if you guys don't know who RGN Spades is, by the way, he's also called, no, it's not Spades actually, it's actually RGN Future. Sorry about that. Spades and Future, two totally different people, but he was a VT. Not sure what that stood for, but he was a VT Gaming. So I will be playing against RGN Future. He is a high-level Protoss. He's played a few games against Psy, against who is the guy from Vile who is not Psy and not Illusion? Spinishua, the guy who revolutionized how Zergs should do their gas timings. And he also played against Destiny. So he's a pretty high-level Protoss. I know that he favors a lot of those High Templar plays against Zerg. So hopefully I'll find some sort of strategy or build that works against that. Or at the very least I'll be able to hold my own. He is a High Master. I am a Platinum. But I need to get into Diamond already. I feel like I belong there, and I should just do that already. But anyways, we see pretty much similar builds. We have one refinery for each player. KoKoRo is starting on his factory, as is LuckyStar. I guess I'll call him LuckyStar because that's kind of, I can't call him Lucky because then I think of the GSO player Lucky, right? But yeah, we'll just call him LuckyStar. It's close enough. And right off the bat, I gotta figure out what happened to the music. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So the music started back on, guys. Sorry about that. But we do see the two players here taking kind of a defensive stance, not trying to be overly aggressive. We have a reactor on this barracks, a factory, another refinery going down, so we can expect a Starport from LuckyStar. And pretty much the same from KoKoRo. Expect a Starport after this. Now, I don't see any tech labs or reactors just yet. There is a tech lab now on the factory, so we could possibly be seeing some Banshee play here from KoKoRo. Whereas for his opponent, I expect for there to be a Hellion build or just, you know, a lot of Marines. It looks like it's going to be a lot of Marines with some Hellion support. And so I think this will do pretty well against any sort of initial aggression. But it looks like it's going to be Banshee versus some sort of Starport. Now, Terrans, if they're able to come up here and scout that there's a lot of Marines, no Marauders, no Hellions, no nothing like that, you should expect almost the way the current metagame is that there's going to be some sort of Banshee play. So a lot of Terrans out there have been going for Sky Terran, and when they go for Sky Terran, they get a Viking, you know, or a Medevac and then a Viking. But it's all about what this first Hellion scouts. So he does get a few pot shots off on the Hellion, and LuckyStar will kind of come up here. You'll see just like a lot of Marines. You'll see a reactor on that barracks, and that more or less tells them that there's no other real build that he's going to do except for a drop or a Banshee. So he's going to go ahead here and make out a Viking. This will help shut this down immediately as long as he has his Viking in the correct place. And so far it looks like everyone is very close as far as income tabs. Let's look at that. 25 to 24, they're both really close. But KoKoRo has started on siege tank production, so even if this Banshee doesn't do that much damage, he was able to afford that siege tank. He did not go for cloak, and therefore he's going to be able to defend against some sort of all-in. So we do have a Hellion here spotting, does see that Banshee, who is on her way to the main base. The army, meanwhile, for LuckyStar is pushing out. Now Viking's out of position, so this Banshee will get a couple of pot shots off on these SCVs, which will smartly make their way for the Vespane Geyser. That's a really smart thing for players to do. If your SCVs are under attack, go ahead and take them into the refinery, and that will make it a lot harder for the Banshee to kill them off. But meanwhile, we have Marines coming up the front here with some Hellions. Siege Tech has just finished, and now these Marines and these Hellions will have to back off. So both players just kind of trading blows here. Nothing really big going on, but LuckyStar does have the map advantage. He's more able to see what is going on here, and is making a Banshee of his own. So I'm not sure if KoKoRo is actually ready for this. He doesn't have anything in the back here. All of his forces out front, he's actually moving out. This could be very problematic. He's not making anything out of the Starport right now. In fact, he's making another Banshee. Needs to bring back these units, but he wants to push out here, at least kill this watchtower, which he does. And the units from LuckyStar are going to come back in to do a flank. Meanwhile, the Banshee's is racking up on kills here. Let's look at the units lost tab. Workers kill tab. He's actually getting quite a few numbers. He's up to 7 kills on the workers, 8 kills now, and will finally be chased off by this Viking. So sorry if it was in the way, but that Banshee will finally die off. And meanwhile, there are 2 siege tanks and a bunch of Marines in LuckyStar's base. This could mean lots and lots of terrible damage. The Starport will more than likely be going down here shortly. And don't forget that there's actually Hellions in KoKoRo's base. He was not able to pick off all of that, so he will need to pull his forces together and hopefully not lose all of his SCVs. He needs to get them back mining. He needs to get these units back in here to help defend. And meanwhile, these Marines and the siege tanks are just picking off whatever they please. So out come the SCVs, out come a couple of Marines and a tank, and this will hopefully be enough for LuckyStar to break this contain. KoKoRo really needs to focus down these SCVs. That is the most important thing to focus fire, because if you can kill the production of Terran, you can very much set him back to the Stone Age. But as you see here, things are kind of even out. Let's look back at the income tab. It's 13 to 12. So both players kind of trading blows there. And no real plans for expansions from KoKoRo, but LuckyStar already has his command center nearly done. It took a bit of fire from the siege tanks, but we'll be on the way there shortly. Factory is about a little bit less than half health, and the first Viking will move out just to see what else he can pick off. And meanwhile, LuckyStar says it's GG. He's picked off quite a few SCVs here. So KoKoRo is going to be a bit behind. It's going to be a little bit difficult for him to come back into this game. Look back at the income tab. It's 16 to 8 harvesters. So KoKoRo is very far behind. He cannot afford to start an orbital. In fact, he's going to have to mine nothing but minerals here. But it looks like he does have 2 SCVs in gas at the moment. And meanwhile, LuckyStar does have a nice contingent of Marines and tanks out here out front, so he can secure his own expansion. So we have another barracks going down here for LuckyStar, transfer of SCVs. And neither player is able to produce terribly too much. KoKoRo is actually getting a little bit up there in minerals. He could afford to throw down another barracks or 2 or make more Marines, but it looks like he's a bit preoccupied right here with Micro and trying to ward away this Viking. So the Marines are just coming back here just to make sure there's another drop or any Banshee. He can cover that. Crisis management's pretty good here from KoKoRo. We have 2 siege tanks right out here just to make sure that no front push comes. But here's the thing that KoKoRo and I were talking about. When this tank comes to the back, you should position your tank about around here, so if any drops come, you can shell away at them. And I'm not sure what this tank is doing all the way up here. It's not in a very good spot. So it looks like a Banshee here from KoKoRo did get taken out by LuckyStar. And this medevac drop is coming, and I think KoKoRo is going to move away. Oh, at a terrible time. If he just left his units there, he probably would have been able to defend this off. In fact, he has 2 Vikings here that are going to leave as well. It looks like he's moving his units towards the front. This is not where you want to go when you're expecting drops. I don't think that KoKoRo was thinking that his opponent would go for a medevac drop here, because if he had, he would have left his units there, or at least a siege tank. So the Marines are able to pick off one of the SCVs. We'll pick off the supply depot as well. And the Vikings are getting a little bit far ahead of themselves. They will not take any damage, though. He has to wait for those Marines to come back and wait for that siege tank to get set up in order to deal with this. But the Vikings doing lots of damage here. KoKoRo might lose another supply depot if he's not careful. He will lose that supply depot. That's going to put KoKoRo a bit behind. So now we see how the supply lock is really affecting KoKoRo. He's about 8 supply behind, 7 supply behind right now. He does have the Viking advantage, but he's not really taking advantage of it. He should really get his Vikings out here over the Starport and just wait for units to pop out. But that's a lot of multitasking. It's going to be really hard for any player of any caliber to do all that multitasking. So there was a chance right here to pick off a medevac. Will he come in and do that? No, the medevac will get away just in time. If he'd be able to take off a few pot shots at the very least, that would have done some damage and should have helped him out a little bit. So now another barracks will not be going down for KoKoRo. He's actually going to reposition it. And there's not a lot of production coming from these buildings, is what I noticed from KoKoRo. He's making a lot of SCVs. He's trying to keep up with his macro. He's got to catch up some way, somehow. He's just a little bit behind, but I do like how he's keeping these Marines here in the back, just to make sure that any subsequent drops will be shut down a little bit easier. Now we do have a little bit of a push out here from LuckyStar. He's maybe trying to take that watchtower and just get some good positioning here with his Marines and tanks. Let's look at the unit count. He does have 16 Marines and 5 tanks and 4 tanks and 11 Marines from KoKoRo. And he has not gotten his STEM upgrade yet, but then again, he doesn't have a tech lab on this barracks yet. So what he needs to do is switch off this barracks with this tech lab and get those upgrades. But meanwhile, we do have a little bit of a drop here with some siege tanks. But KoKoRo, remember, KoKoRo does have the Viking advantage. So if KoKoRo is able to pick off these Vikings, he will take care of that air superiority, and the siege tank will set up, and these Vikings will have to, well, they're going to die. And that's going to be pretty much what happens. And this medevac made it go down as well. It does, and that goes the harass from LuckyStar. So KoKoRo's a little bit behind right now with his macro. I feel like right now he could throw down maybe another factory and get some production out. Maybe throw down another supply depot. His gas is getting kind of up there. He's doing a lot of supply drops here. It's because he's doing so many of these supply depots, and meanwhile not doing terrible amounts of harass. He does have this watchtower here, so he has decent view of what's going on the map. But we do have 3 siege tanks out front. We have these Marines going to clear away these rocks, so looks like he wants to take this third back here. It's a safer bet. But his opponent is a little bit ahead, so his opponent could probably go for this gold if he wanted to. It'd be a lot harder for KoKoRo to push out and punish that. 2 more refineries going down for LuckyStar as well as another barracks. So we do have another reactor here. Oh, looks like these Vikings are getting ahead of themselves. That's too many Marines. And LuckyStar's just on top of his map control here. He knows everything that's going on. He's got really good crisis management here. KoKoRo could have possibly picked off a medevac popping out of the Starport, but was able to get his Marines there in time just to make sure that did not happen. Meanwhile, KoKoRo does not have any upgrades on his infantry yet. I do not believe. No, we're just now getting a tap lab, so that stim and that combat shell is going to be really late. But he already has pretty decent tech. He's just falling a little bit behind. His opponent's going to have stim and combat shields here shortly, which is going to mean a world in this upcoming engagement, which is going to happen here because the tanks are unsieging here. Who can get the first siege? KoKoRo is going to get the first siege. So if LuckyStar is smart, he will fall back. He does not need to get into that line. That Marine will go down. And KoKoRo's doing a really good job here with his tank spread. He's just making sure that tanks are just out of damage, or just out of range of any sort of potential damage that could have happened. Meanwhile, LuckyStar is throwing up a few turrets, making sure that no drops getting into his base. And again, KoKoRo's macro is kind of falling behind here, even after throwing down these 2 barracks in a factory. He's getting a little bit behind. This siege tank is in a nice position here. As Terran, you kind of want to chisel away at what your opponent is doing. And so because KoKoRo has the sight advantage, he's actually able to take out, he's actually able to do some decent damage to this siege tank up top here. He has a better angle here. So really needs to get these siege tanks into position, needs to get these Marines into position to help defend, and needs to make sure that his opponent never feels safe in pushing forward. But these Marines have stim, they have combat shields. KoKoRo is just now getting combat shields, a very important upgrade to have. Meanwhile, he does have a tank here in his mineral line. Here comes a drop. It's going to kill off so many of his own SCVs. Look at the friendly fire there. And if KoKoRo's smart enough, yes, he will take out that that medevac, and so these Marines will go down, but not after killing lots of units from KoKoRo. So we do see a lot of workers lost here, and now that these tanks do not have the support they need from the Marines, it's going to be a lot easier for LuckyStar to move up in here, and they don't have stim or siege. This is going to mean a world right here a world of damage. So all these tanks and all these Marines will be taken out here from KoKoRo. And he's not going to get that tank. Very close. One lower shot off of that medevac would have killed that, but the Banshee does go down regardless. These Marines are very low health, but there are 2 medevacs out, so they will be able to heal up. They will be able to get healed very quickly. And the supply count now is 90 to 106. KoKoRo's looking to take his third. LuckyStar has instead decided to go for a larger army, which means he'll be able to get a better positioning on the map. It's going to be very hard for KoKoRo to push out and take his gold. He's going to take his third. He's playing in a very defensive mindset right here. He's just trying to survive instead of trying to get map positioning, which is what his opponent is doing. And once you get map positioning like that, you can float your command center over there to the gold, and you can take the gold. You can just be a little bit more bold with what your unit positioning is. So we do have the Vikings just kind of dancing around right here. +1 infantry armor is going down for LuckyStar, and Stimpack has just started now for KoKoRo. He's only about maybe 25% of the way done. But he doesn't have any upgrades as far as engineering bay, which I don't think there is one here on this map. I do not see an engineering bay, so he's going to fall behind on his upgrades. It's going to mean a lot. His opponent's just always ahead of him on upgrades. This is really going to hurt KoKoRo in the long game. So in comes another drop actually here from LuckyStar, who does currently hold the watchtower as well, so KoKoRo's just waiting for this attack to happen up front. But meanwhile, he doesn't have much in the back, and these supply depots are not in very good places. So a lot of SCVs are going to get picked off here. KoKoRo not having the best crisis management here. He's going to have a couple of SCVs die immediately to these Marines. They're going to try and split and come in here to kill off the tank, but that will be thwarted. So nice recovery there from KoKoRo, but again, he's still hurting. He still needs to get his macro underway. And there's just a lot of things right now that macro-wise that KoKoRo is just faltering on. He's playing defensively. He's sort of panicking. He does have this third base up, but right now Terran has map control. He's secured his third at the gold, and he's going to feel a little bit more relaxed about sending all these Marines and tanks out here to punish any sort of expansion that KoKoRo grabs. So the supply tells everything. LuckyStar at 132, KoKoRo to 120, and I guess there's some sort of harass going on here. Yes, there was a Banshee from KoKoRo coming back in here to sort of pick off these SCVs. A little bit too timid with pulling back there. He didn't need to pull back right away, but he will force a stem from the Marines. That's always a nice thing to do. But meanwhile, the big army here from LuckyStar will come up. Let's look at the units tab. 59 Marines and 6 tanks for LuckyStar. And we only have 6 tanks and actually 43 Marines, so it's really close here. But there are more medevacs for LuckyStar. And I think KoKoRo's units are out of position. What would really help is if you build a supply depot, build one right here. And that way you can see when these attacks are coming. But this Marine tank force will come up in here and will likely shut down this third base. The SCVs immediately evacuate this tank siege up. And this base is null and void, and all these supply depots, even this orbital will probably go down. Yes, it will go down. SCVs are too late to the party to try and repair. The Marines now do have stim, but they need to fall back if they do not want to get pummeled by these siege tanks. So losing a lot of supply right here. He's now supply locked. LuckyStar is very far ahead, 147 to 150, but KoKoRo's supply locked. He can't make any more units. So really it's up to LuckyStar right here to get his forces back, to make sure they traverse the map. KoKoRo's missing out on an opportunity right here. He needs to pull a lot of forces right here. He needs to kind of secure this area of the map. Even if he pulls his forces out a little bit like right here, I think he could do just fine. But then again, he has this entire flank open, so I don't blame him. I don't fault him for keeping his units here just in case. We do have a minor engagement here in the middle, but LuckyStar just has so many forces. His entire army is able to crush that small contention from KoKoRo. Will drop down once again in supply to 134. So we do have 3 Marines here picking away at these rocks. We do have this Banshee here just kind of idle. And let's look at the income tab for both players. Is 46 to 59. So KoKoRo is actually doing a great job macro-wise, but he does not have 3 bases up and running. He does not have a gold base. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for him to keep up that production if he wants to stay in this game. Let's look at the production tab. We have +2 infantry weapons going down for LuckyStar and +1 vehicle plating. And meanwhile, KoKoRo's just starting on his +1 all the way around. He doesn't have he doesn't have a second army, so he can't do +1 ship plating, or sorry, vehicle plating. But this is really hard for him to catch up on upgrades, but he does have the unit advantage. Meanwhile, another drop going down on the base, so LuckyStar just being ruthless with these assaults, just never letting up. And I think these Vikings will be able to take care of this medevac. Yes, they will. Easy peasy. Will go down. Sorry about that, guys. I had to sneeze, and I just don't want to sneeze into the mic because I know that would be very unwelcoming to your ears. So this Banshee's here is going to be kind of annoying. It is going to make sure that no SCVs come up in here and start mining from the space, but the rocks aren't even, you know, busted down yet. So we do have a huge army out here from LuckyStar. He has all the positioning that he wants right now. In fact, he could stand to move up his tanks a little bit closer if he wanted to. Really shut down this avenue here for Terran, for KoKoRo. But instead, he's just electing to stay at the watchtower, playing it a little bit safe. He will be going for another drop here shortly, which will be set to attack this third, which has just now landed. And KoKoRo really needs that income. He does have the SCV count, but he's really hurting macro-wise. He's just not doing the best job he could macroing. Looks like this drop will get cleaned up just fine, and the supply depot might burn down. He needs to grab that SCV over there and heal it. Yes, he does. And this is what's really been hurting KoKoRo all game. I want to point out all these supply drops he's been doing. That is so many supply drops as Terran. You do not want to have all those supply drops happening. That really hurts your macro. That's 300 more minerals that you can use towards getting other useful things like more barracks or more factories. So we do have this, well, it looks like it's going to be a planetary here. Going down at the third, KoKoRo is going to try and take his gold, but this army's going to push out. It's going to do some damage. I just don't think KoKoRo's in a very good spot right here to really hold this off. He does not have tanks in position. They're all sort of defensively out front. He does see this push coming up here, and this gold base will be denied. But that's all he needs, really, to get this base up and running. But he wasn't paying attention. I think it might get picked off here. If there were a Viking back here, this base would go down a lot faster, but it's going down to about 100 health, and it's going to go down. So very nice pick up here from KoKoRo. It's because his opponent did not have the foresight to knock down these rocks first. You always want to bust down these rocks before you take an expansion, or at least have them at very low health as Terran. You do not just want to rely on your opponent not being back here with a Banshee and Marines or something and picking off your command center. So this Banshee will drop in here, start picking off more SCVs. Just going to be annoying in general, forcing a stim from these Marines to try and clean this up. Not great focus firing right here from KoKoRo. He could be picking off a lot more SCVs, and the Banshee will go down, but there's a couple SCVs here, like at nearly no health, that could have been picked off. And I know it seems like something that's not that important, but every SCV counts, every worker counts, and in every mirror matchup, every worker counts. So, meanwhile, we have this huge army right here from LuckyStar, right out front. KoKoRo cannot leave his base. He's really tightly contained right now. It's really hard for him to take his gold. He does have that orbital up, but he just needs to focus a little bit more on macro. He needs to throw down a couple of more factories, throw down some more barracks, and really get that going. But in comes the push, which LuckyStar will wisely back off, and it's not in the position you want to be, and he will instead go elect for a drop. This could be deadly right here. If he drops right close to the siege tank, he'll be able to pick off the siege tank. He'll be able to pick off a lot of the production capacity here for KoKoRo, who is stemming a lot of his Marines to try and clean this up. The siege tanks are not in range. In fact, they're going to try and spread up here and get a nice positioning on KoKoRo's tanks, which are doing lots and lots of damage. Marines and tanks here able to clean up the rest of this push, but this is a lot of damage done to KoKoRo's army, his infrastructure, so he's just really hurting right now. And if he's able to pick off a couple of these medevacs, that would help out so much, but he's just not fast enough for that stem. And instead, he will elect to pick them up, and since there are no Vikings here, he's just going to drop on these tanks. A very smart move here from KoKoRo, picking off your opponent's tanks by dropping on them. This is why you need the Viking advantage. If you do not have Viking advantage, you do not have position advantage. These Marines will get picked off, but these tanks were not able to do the damage they needed to do. So meanwhile, you have more Marines stemming in, kind of pointlessly. It's better if he picks them up and just drops them on the tanks again. But meanwhile, we have a counterattack here from KoKoRo. He might deny this fourth here from Terran. Meanwhile, dropping Marines off by the tanks to pick them off one by one. Marines are going to come in here to sort of shoo this away, but losing a lot of SCVs in the process. He's actually going to run up in here and see that there's no base back here. In fact, the base is hiding out by the 5th. Should be landing, honestly. Meanwhile, a huge drop from LuckyStar. Sorry I'm not catching all this at the same time. It's really difficult to hold all this off, and man, the command center goes down. That's going to be very devastating here for KoKoRo. So he's in a world of hurt right now. He's in a very defensive mindset. He hasn't really been across this side of the map but once. And really, You know, Lucky Star doesn't have much mineral income-wise. He really does not. He's about mined out here at his gold. He needs to take this 4th. He needs to take this 5th. And KoKoRo is going to secure this gold, but he just needs to get more production up. He just does not have a lot of production going on. Look at his macro slipping, 2,712 gas. This is just not where you want to be as a Terran. I mean, his units are all spread out all across the map. He never knows where his opponent is, and so his opponent's able to get these nice positions here and able to shell away at this orbital, which needs to lift off. It's not going to remain there for much longer if he tries to keep it down. I'm not sure what KoKoRo is trying to accomplish here. He finally will lift off. But being forced to lift off like that, it's got to really hurt you as a Terran. And so the production facility is still not really being used. I don't know why. KoKoRo should really just start making... Oh no, he's going to get caught in a really bad position. Going to get wedged between these 2 unit clumps. But does a smart move right there, a cute move right there where he attacks 1 Marine and moves out with the rest. And these Marines and these tanks might be enough to fend this off. But this is going to be a really close situation right here. There's a lot of Marines coming in to help reinforce, but they are going to be picked off by these siege tanks. And KoKoRo's going to GG. And I think a little bit too preemptively, because look at all these minerals and gas, and look at how much army that Lucky Star doesn't really have. Now, if you pull together all these guys right here, and he went to reinforce this army right away, he could probably win. But the one thing I noticed is that all these barracks are not being used. So really, KoKoRo is just falling behind a macro because he's freaking out. He's in crisis management mode all the time and never trying to hurt his opponent back in the later games. In the earlier stages, he was doing a fine enough job of that, and that was how he was able to stay in the game, but he just got a little bit too defensive there. Was slipping too much on macro, tried to throw down some factories to make up for that, but it's just a little bit too little too late, and he wasn't able to secure this gold, so that was what got him the GG. So, good game there, good TVT from LuckySTAR and KoKoRo, and that'll do it for this cast, guys. I've been your host, as always, KoKoRo. Be sure to rate, subscribe, comment, favorite, all that fun stuff, and since this was my first TVT and I don't play Terran, if there's any sort of insight or any sort of criticism that you can give, please list it in the comments below, and I will hopefully have something better to add next time around. But that'll do it all for this cast, guys. I will see you next time. Peace.